at City University of New York. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Mahsuk Yamac is Dean of Graduate Studies at Zaytuna College in Berkeley, California. Master Mahsuk is a classically trained scholar, a former Madrasa instructor. He holds ijazahs in a range of disciplines from scholars in India, Syria, Turkey, and he has been teaching at Zaytuna College, classical Islamic sciences, more specifically Islamic philosophy and Arabic grammar. He's also a friend of mine, and we are Hem Bajari. We are from the same city. Ahmed Diyarbakir. Mahsuk, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll hear from Master Mahsuk for about maybe 30 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A. Yeah, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mujahid. Let me share the screen and then go to, yes. Can you see my screen now? Okay. So thank you. Good morning, good afternoon. I think good evening maybe. And the best way to say a good time. It's a pleasure to be here with you all, guys. I want to thank first and foremost Dr. Mujahid Biliji and his team for inviting me and for bringing us together in this virtual space for a meaningful conversation. Thank you all. My talk today is titled Forming the Mind, the Classical Madrasa as a Liberal Arts Tradition. The Madrasa and the Western liberal arts, though they grew in different soils, share the same purpose: the liberation of the intellect through disciplined learning. Both aim to cultivate human beings who can think clearly, speak truthfully, and act, I hope, justly, who are truly free. So I will explore how the Kurdish Madrasa tradition cultivated the intellect through instrumental sciences, the arts of language, logic, and rhetoric, and how these disciplines parallel the liberal arts in the Western tradition. So here I would like to, I think, here, yes, just I'm trying to move the slides. Yeah, I'm a little bit half boomer, forgive me. So both the Kurdish Madrasa and the Western liberal arts traditions seek to cultivate the intellect and liberate thought through disciplined learning. The Kurdish madrasas emphasize the arts of language, logic, and eloquence as tools for the intellect development and growth. Despite some subtle differences, both traditions converge in cultivating. I think if we follow as they by the nature of those sciences, I think they converge in cultivating critical thinking, ethical reasoning, and articulate expression. So the word madrasa, the Arabic term madrasa, derives from the root dars, dal ra sa, or DRS in English. So that means to read repeatedly in order to master or memorize, as well as to teach and to learn. The word madrasa, when fitted into the morphological pattern, which is maf'al, it forms madrasa. So that means a place or time of study and teaching where inherited wisdom is mastered and transmitted. So a madrasa is therefore not merely a school, but a place of disciplined reading and communal learning devoted to the wisdom, to wisdom. So in the Kurdish context, the madrasa refers to civil, non-profit Islamic boarding schools devoted to the traditional sciences. Until recently, many were also called hujra. Even, my father as well graduated from the madrasa. A madrasa, relatively for his generation, um, is more kind of it's a new term, and they were called hujra, meaning chamber, referring to the study rooms where instruction takes place. Yeah, very small, because they had very small room, and there was a scholar, namely Sayda, and there were students. Um, so they were studying in the same room, sleeping in the same room. That's why they were small. Mostly they were small chambers or rooms. That's why they're called hujra. So shortly, there is no fixed duration of study. Progress depends on a student's capability and mastery rather than like on years. Completion typically takes 6 or to 8 years of continuous study. Though Kurdish madrasas lack written regulations or centralized administration, they share an inherited curriculum passed down orally, verbally, through generations, preserving a remarkably coherent educational system. Um, in terms of pedagogy, another hallmark of the Kurdish madrasa is it is pedagogical methods. Teaching is based on mutual volition, means the teacher chooses his student and the student chooses his teacher. And instruction is one-on-one, ensuring a highly personalized and rigorous transmission of knowledge. Students study nearly full time from Friday evening through Thursday afternoon. This intimate engagement between teacher and student embodies a deep commitment to intellectual and moral formation. Because um, it is not only academic side, there is another spiritual side of madrasa as well. Like we say, the spiritual side, like a irfan, mystical side of madrasa as well. That's why they inherit both academic and character and kind of spiritual qualities. So, um, sorry, I don't want to be behind of the. Okay, I think this, yes. Um, the curriculum of the classical Kurdish madrasa was built on two great pillars: the linguistic sciences and rational sciences, collectively known as the ulum al-ala in Arabic, or instrumental sciences. They were called instrumental or tools. Even in Western tradition, there is a very good article. It's called The Tools of Learning. Lexically, ala means tools or instrumental because they were the tools of all higher learning, the arts that make thought itself possible. Before one could approach theology, jurisprudence, or philosophy, or, for example, exegesis, tafsir, or hadith, one had to learn how to read, how to think, how speak properly. So they are considered like a higher learning and the Islamic studies, which is yes. So the mirrors, I mean, this one, I think this mirrors the foundation of the Western liberal arts, which is the trivium and quadrivium. I hope I pronounced correctly the second one. The trivium and quadrivium, which prepared students for philosophy and theology. The linguistic sciences, including morphology, like sarf, I will touch upon those sciences briefly. Morphology, which is we called in Arabic, sarf, syntax, we say nahu, philosophy of language. This is very interesting science. It is called ilm al-wada'. I mean, I didn't even, at Zaytuna College, I teach this class, philosophy of language, Arabic, but there is no equivalent to ilm al-wada' in Western tradition. Maybe you can say semantics, but it is more broad. Shortly deals with the relationship between words and objects, and what is the nature of words, and who is the positor of the words toward their meaning. So this is kind of this knowledge and rhetoric as well. We have balagha. So the rational sciences refined intellect through formal logic, or Aristotelian logic, we say, and the ethics of disputation, which is our dialectics and disputation, we say ilm al-munawara or adab al-bahth wal-munawara. Together, these disciplines form the foundation of clarity, coherence, and intellectual integrity. Because our talk is focused on liberal arts side of madrasa and Western tradition. I won't delve into the Islamic studies part, but I would like to just a little bit digress from the topic in ontology and metaphysics, Aristotle's metaphysics, specifically this one. There are four types or levels of existence. For example, the number one is external existence, or yes, external existence like a fire in external reality. External mean external reality like a fire has effect in external reality. The second one, we have mental existence. When you close your eyes and you form the image of a fire in your mind, this is called mental existence. Then when you pronounce it is called spoken existence. When you write down on the board on a piece of paper, it is called written existence. And madrasas, Kurdish madrasas tradition, literally, I mean, it is curriculum, specifically ulum al-ala, the tools of learning on instrumental sciences. They are divided based on these ontological levels. For example, when you have something related to external one, it becomes like a science. When mental, it is either theology, logic. When it's related to spoken existence, it becomes like a grammar, morphology. So this is a division of sciences. It is based on the ontological base framework. The other one, I would like to stop here a little bit. Um, you know, uh, so and there is a hierarchy between those sciences. You cannot study grammar prior to morphology, because morphology deals with the word itself, the structure itself, how meaning, we can extract meaning through the form of a word. So then the meaning is changed, like a passive voice, active voice, and etc. We have a lot. So this is because a word is it is simple, and you have to study morphology before syntax, before grammar, before nahu. So because it deals with the structure of sentence, subject, predicate, copula. So that's why grammar, which is nahu, is considered whole, and morphology is considered part, and always is part prior to the whole. And this, because of this, both morphology and syntax deals with language. Syntax protects tongue from making mistakes. So then you can, after the third level, after years, of course, in Kurdish madrasa, you will study logic. Logic, as you know, comes from Greek word logos. Logos means speaking, to speak, or to think. Both conveys two meanings, this word. So this speaking and in Arabic it is equivalent to the word nutq. Nutq means literally speaking or thinking. And even if I'm not mistaken, but there's Zaman Said Nursi, he says nutq al-zahri and nutq al-dakhili, internal speaking and external speaking, which is internal speaking is a thinking, and external is speaking. So they study logic, then they move on to dialectics and disputation. It is really it is like very impressive, because the subject matter of logic is two things simply: definition, how you can create inclusive and exclusive definition. The second part of logic is syllogism, how you create syllogism from two propositions, one conclusion. So, because logic, the subject matter of logic is this, then dialectics and disputation, you build upon logic. So when you have interlocutor, how you to dispute them, how you refute their argument, and you establish, proof your own arguments. So you have to know it is either definition or syllogism, which is claim or argument. So that's why literally it is very clear when I teach, even here at Zaytuna, if they don't have logic foundation, like if they didn't study foundation, definitely they cannot move on to dialectics and disputation. And there is another one, which is then balagha, because kind of the art of eloquence, how to express yourself beautifully, then comes after all those. And just the brief, the hierarchy between those sciences. And this is even today followed by Kurdish scholars and madrasas. This is really amazing. But just sorry, I'm digressing. Um, Usually, because of the nature of Kurdish status, we don't have institutions, but our scholars, our like Abedin Zaman Said Nursi, all Ahmed Khani, Mullah Jazari, they graduated, they studied the same way, like the curriculum of madrasa, and um, usually it's considered kind of completely religious school, but those sciences they are coming from. I don't have inferior complex to say, oh, this is not or Muslims world only, or to do it to give the everything to Greek tradition, but literally grammar and the rational and the science comes from Greek, like a formal logic literally from Aristotelian, and grammar Hellenic. There is a lot of match. I will touch upon this. So this is it is completely is not only religious, at the same time is kind of liberal arts institution, and very deeply with memorization, with mastering. I just as a quick note, grammar, even today, they read and memorize more than 10 books. Personally, I memorize about 20 books. Yes, about 20 books, between short and hefty tome books, between prose and the regular books and poems. So um, trivium and the instrumental sides, I would just want to a little bit talk about this. As you know, the seven liberal arts were divided into two groups: the trivium, which is grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and where the art of language, disciplining how we think and communicate; the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. So this is the Western tradition. Today we don't have in madrasa. In madrasa, specific, maybe you can. For example, my father, he studied arithmetic in his time, and some other scholars are astronomy, even math they had. Actually, I took some classes in music in very classic way, but I couldn't finish it. It wasn't in Kurdish madrasa, but with some scholars they knew this one, the music. So together they shape a mind capable of seeing unity in multiplicity, like we say, al-wahdatu fil kathra wal kathra fil wahda. I mean, and harmony in the structure. So in the Islamic world, we find like a very close analog in the instrumental sciences. The linguistic disciplines, like I said, Nahw, Sarf, and Balagha in madrasa, Kurdish madrasa, correspond to the grammar, rhetoric, logic, and dialectics and disputation. Because those things, through Greek and Syriac translation, Muslim scholars integrated, like I said, Aristotelian logic and Hellenic grammar into a Quranic vision of reason, creating their own liberal arts and tradition. So I will hear, um, you know, language in Islamic tradition. In Islam, I don't like the word Islamic, honestly, is a divided gift. Look, the Quran says, وَعَلَّمَ الْآدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Adam, the names of all things. The word thing is ontological term, means objects, whether it's external or internal. The study of Arabic grammar, Arabic in general, it is grammar, morphology, philosophy, and rhetoric. The study of those things in Kurdish madrasa, even today, it was therefore kind of sacred. But if you look at the nature of those things, there is no, it's grammar. Even like there's no any. You cannot attribute any divine meaning to those. So grammar ordered. So the intellect as much as it orders speech. So rhetoric perfected this by joining beauty with clarity, showing how truth might be expressed persuasively. And and is very long. I don't want to get into this, to take your time. Together they discipline both speech and understanding, forming the intellect capable of discerning through truth through language. The grammar in Arabic grammar specifically, emerged to preserve the integrity of language and meaning, just to protect Quranic Arabic from corruption. I teach a class this semester as a preceptorial, like special reading courses with few students. Literally, when you look into all like a Semitic language, Aramaic, and other things, and how's the relationship with the Arabic, you see Arabic is very new to me. And because of our Quran, Arabic was protected. I think otherwise it would be one of the ordinary language. Wouldn't be at this level right now. It has millions of grammar and rhetoric and other. It is served. It's served because of the Quran. That's why I think, and they have a huge millions of books. Not only grammar. When we say grammar, it's kind of harmonic. It's not only to say, oh, subject, predicate, copula, adjective, not like this, not this, something behind this. And most importantly, just a concrete example, there are two terms. معنى الاسم معنى الحرفي, Said Nursi uses a lot. I have seen the first time. For the first time, I've seen Said Nursi, someone graduated from Madrasa, applied to theological issues. And in Western tradition, um, like for معنى اسمي they say categorimatic. For معنى الحرفي they say syncategorimatic. Sister Miriam in her book of Trivium, he mentioned this very impressively. But Zaman Said Nursi applied. This is literally the very one of the most I think arduous topic in Arabic grammar. It is considered acid test for scholars in Kurdistan today. If you know those mana al harfi as it, that means you have the higher level of the scholarly. That's why and the language was very served, and it bridges kind of minds, revealing what is hidden in thought. So when rightly understood, it reconciles differences and enables shared understanding. Pre-Islamic Arabs spoke refined Arabic. Once oral tradition became textual and grammar became indispensable, then Muslim grammarians developed a science that later influenced European grammar schools. The decline of grammatical study in modern times has led to a loss of precision and meaning. When language weakens, so does thought. The fall of grammar signals, the erosion of our shared medium of reason. So this is um, the when they completing linguistic mastery in Kurdish madrasa, the traditional sciences discipline the intellect, like a chief among them. One of the most important science in Kurdish madrasa is logic. Today they study about 4 or 5 logic books. And the discipline of right reasoning, like Thomas Aquinas in his books mentioned about logic. Literally is everything is same, like a formal logic, definition, yeah, and comprehension, reasoning, and syllogism, conclusion. The completely is the same as our madrasa that we teach and studied in madrasa. Muslim thinkers and call the for logic, it's called Mizan al-Ulum, or like Ghazali says Mi'yar al-Ulum. I think it's good to translate the balance of the sciences or scale of sciences, Mi'yar, because it weighed. Mi'yar means to weigh something. Because it weighed the validity of arguments and purified thought from contradiction. Alongside logic came adab al-bahth wal-munadhara, ethics. I touched upon this briefly. So, and ensuring that reasoning, which comes from logic, was joined with kind of humility and fairness, how to dispute your interlocutor, and to argue well was to love truth more than victory. Just not to overcome with to your interlocutor. Together they formed a kind of the ethical and intellectual backbone of scholarly life. This is one of yes. So in both Islamic and Western traditions, education was regarded as a discipline of freedom. Freedom of thought arises not from just impulse, but from training the faculties of reason and expression. True freedom is not the absence of restraint, but the mastery of intellect and the self. When we place these together, language, logic, and expression and reasoning, we see that the madrasas, ulum al-ala, instrumental sciences, functioned like the trivium of the West. Um, um, as This book, by Miriam Joseph, Sister Miriam Joseph explains in this book. I think one of the first book I've read in English a few years ago, maybe 8 years ago. Just started. I like it and very, very good book. Highly recommended. The Trivium. This is the book that the liberal arts of logic, grammar, and rhetoric. She says the trivium is the organon or instrument of all education because the arts of logic, grammar, and rhetoric are the arts of communication itself. In the Western tradition, grammar orders language, logic orders thought. I think I repeated this a few times, twice. Sorry about that. But in our Kurdish madrasa as well, Nahu, Mantiq, Balagha serve the same purpose, disciplining intellect and tongue so that the heart may approach truth with precision and humility. Um, so the madrasa, Kurdish madrasa, like the classical academy, sought to make knowledge transformative. Grammar freed the student from confusion, logic from contradiction. I mean, the true scholar was not, in even in Kurdish, in my time, even today, as a like a custom in Kurdish classic madrasa, the true scholar was not the one who knew many things, just to data, information, etc., but the one whose intellect and character reflected harmony and proportion. Today, uh, when education is increasingly specialized and utilitarian, both madrasa and the liberal arts remind us that learning existing not to produce workers, like Dr. Mujahid mentioned in his, I think, last article, but to cultivate persons as well. Reviving the liberal arts in the Muslim context, I think, even like for everyone, is not nostalgia but renewal, a forward-looking recovery of disciplines that make understanding, dialogue, and wisdom possible. So, um, yes, the classical madrasa, like the liberal arts tradition, um, the yeah, it is curriculum of, for example, in madrasa, in its curriculum of language and reasoning uh, continues to offer model for holistic education. It's not, I mean, in both Western our madrasa education, because really, I mean, in liberal arts sense, education is preparation for, like we said, freedom, not the right to do as one wishes, but the power to know what is right and to love, and what is right and to love it actually. So to form the mind is to free it from ignorance through language, through logic, through I mean, through rhetoric. I mean, I think if we can recover this vision of education as the discipline of freedom and the formation of the whole person, we might once again can cultivate minds, specifically today, which is social media, etc., and people, they cannot type, they cannot, even the left writing and thinking, so we will be, yeah, I mean, we can cultivate minds capable of seeing the truth clearly, speaking it beautifully, and living it courageously. And those sciences encourage madrasa, even like a kind of religious tradition, I madrasa, which is right, and but at the same time, in their nature, they are universal. So I think that's the highest purpose of liberal arts, wherever they are taught. Um, I think I should stop here. Thank you very much for your patience, and just I touched upon the major points of madrasas in liberal arts aspect. If you have any questions and comments, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mamos Demashuk. That was a very thought-provoking set of ideas. Before um, inviting the audience for questions, to pose their questions, I would
Mhm.
like to start with one. What makes Kurdish madrasa distinctive? Is there anything distinctive about Kurdish madrasa? You mentioned spiritual side, Irfan tradition. I can think of that. But is there
Right.
anything else? What makes madrasa Kurdish madrasa apart
Good
from being
question.
similar?
Yeah, great. I think there is a lot of aspect of medicine literally distinctive.
Mhm.
In terms of curriculum, is very very solid curriculum they have. Um, in terms of the method of teaching and learning today in Islamic world, because madrasa is considered one of the institution in Islamic world. Most of them they study very superficially. There are two types of institutions: universities, like kind of divinity school in Turkish ilahiyat, in Egypt, like they have Azhar and their other stuff, and we have Mahdara. The only I think the Iranian tradition, which is called Hausa, they are a little bit in philosophical sense they are stronger than Kurdish madrasa, honestly, because after the collapse of Ottoman Empire, the tradition of philosophy collapsed. I stopped. I'm sorry, and they continued in Iran. I really, for example, I teach Mullah Sadra's philosophy at Zaytuna College. So the distinctive feature of classic madrasa in terms of education, it is a one-on-one, and they memorize every single text they study. This is what is the default setting in madrasa. And the second one, they have to master, because it is text-based education. They have to memorize every single what they have studied, and they have to review with their peers. So, and the abstract meaning from, even, believe me, they extract very incredible and sometimes very wrong impressions because of the typos of the word in the book. Even they, even it's typo, but they say, oh, maybe it's correct, and they can find way how to interpret the text. They give like a kind of very deeply how to read a book in classics. So this one aspect. The second aspect, the spiritual, like your irfani, let's say, aspect of it, by the nature of madrasa and Kurdish region, the overwhelming majority of scholars in Kurdish madrasa, they are coming from some spiritual orders like Tasawwuf, Sufism, especially Naqshbandi tradition. And that's why, beside the academic parts of the program, and they inherited this wisdom as well, this from their teacher. That's why it is kind of volition based, between two, like a teacher and student, they choose each other. And even in terms of character, if they don't, for example, my father used to say, okay, don't study with someone has a doesn't have solid aqidah, faith. So that's why, and usually through Irfani side and adab and decorum for the I mean Kurdish students today, even we have a kind of, I think the, we should revive our curriculum through, go back to philosophy, more rational sciences, but still it is more stronger than other institutions. Without that, our president Hamza Yusuf, he keeps saying he wish he could study in these methods. Right now, in our MA program at Zaytuna College, we use the methods partially because of 2 years we have MA program. We use the Kurdish Madrasa methods actually, and even some books. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So Kurdish Madrasa is globalizing in North America as well. All right. There is
Well,
a question here from Esma Güneş. Was there a place for dialectical thinking in madrasas? Isn't it rather restricted to rely solely on grammar and logic today?
yeah, good catch. Um, you know, unfortunately, like I said, some rational science became transmitted because the madrasa's education is text-based. We teach logic very strongly. If you ask any student, like on the top of their head, they can say, "Oh, this definition is inclusive, exclusive, syllogism, etc." They can give you all logical terms, Aristotelian logical terms, but um, but because it's text based, and the second one of the tradition, because we are coming from um, I think obedience, uh, tradition, because of the religious part of between teacher and students. Even they study dialectics and disputation. We teach the Ottoman scholars book. It's called Waladiya Saçaklizade, or Kurdish scholar Molla Khalili Sa'ridi. We teach the book of Munazara. Even Ustad Zaman, I think, inspired from this, and he has a book, Munazara, very famously, Dr. Mujahid knows very well. But unfortunately, like today, critical thinking are done. This is not to observe, but because the practical examples became rules. you know they don't practice. They, for example, in logic, when they say, "Oh, this is genius differentia," for example, and they give the example of animal and human, for example. But those, if you say, "Oh, what about tree, what about sky," they won't, they cannot think, look, this is kind of, yeah, it's same. Even examples became rules, unfortunately. But we have hope, and we have a lot of good scholars who are aware of this issue. And
Okay.
yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you. It looks like, the structures are strong, but there's a degree of rigidity in terms of speculative thinking, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that you
that
hit
might be an
the nail on
artifact of,
the head, Allah, mashallah.
yeah, institutional
Yes.
culture. All
Okay.
right, there's a question from Şener Özmen, a colleague of us from Chicago. He's a contemporary artist. The question goes like this. My father-in-law also came from the madrasa tradition. He was known as Mela Abdurrahman Ujaman. Of course, the madrasa was a progressive school. My father-in-law was also a member of the KDP, Turkey, later known as Pendeke Bakur,
Mm-hmm.
and the Democratic Party of Northern Kurdistan. What I mean is that madrasas had a major impact on the spread of Kurdish nationalism, while subsequent generations spread Turk and Arab nationalism. The madrasa generation took the opposite path. My grandfather, who was from the Lice district of Diyarbakir, spent most of his life in prison and in exile.
I'm
Of course,
sorry.
he also conducted research on the Kurdish language. Among the early works were an etymological dictionary of Kurdish and Kurdish translation of the Quran, which was never published. As
Right.
you know, our figures from the madrasa tradition have also become targets of Hezbollah, That's the Turkish Hizbullah. Today,
Yeah.
says no longer exist, and it seems unlikely that we will return to those times due to the Kemalist secularism disease. What are your thoughts on this? Thank you.
On
It's a
which one
question.
partner? It was, was a lot. This is yeah, unfortunately, this is the destiny of Kurdish in general and Kurdish scholars. You know, like because of being stateless, we didn't have institutions. The only place that produced Kurdish intellectual thinkers, scholars was madrasa. That's why we didn't have option and we didn't have Oxford, like Ibrahim Tatsa said, used to say, right? In Diyarbakir in Urfa, that's why we had madrasa. So that's why our scholar thinkers, in literature, we have Ahmad Khani, Malay Jaziri, and we have Jagar Khun, we have Said Nursi, even يعني, like I think he asked about kind of is hub of nationalism. I was asked by a friend of mine, Turkish, a friend of mine. He says, okay, because all those things came from madrasa originally. I don't agree with this because Kurdish madrasa usually the feature of being religion is more dense than other side, but they were studying like books like Nubahar by Ahmed Khani. Personally, the first book I memorized it was Ahmed Khani's Nubahar. Yes, we studying some books in Kurdish, but nobody teaches their student, oh, you have to be this on that. They were personal. If you look at all like madrasa or scholars today exist, no, most of them they don't have kind of even nationalism, leave alone the other things. But because the hub of the stateless people was madrasa, that's why someone they will come out and like Abdi Zaman as Nursi, so and other scholars. Yes, I'm sorry for the destiny and the fate we experienced, and for his father-in-law, I think, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple of more questions. I see Ibrahim Özdemir also raising his hand. We'll come to you,
Sure.
Özdemir. Rachel's question, roughly how many active madrasa students are there today across Kurdistan? How widespread is it as a living phenomenon, and how do madrasa students interact with modern educational institution? Is this a parallel system, or do the students engage with both?
I see. Uh, actually, because
تقريبا
we
how
don't,
many students?
we of course we don't know. Maybe a few thousand, I guess. Because there is no centralized administration things in Kurdish area because even up until now, even now, they are not official. They are not non-profit, governmental. Is led by they are led by people and scholars. So that's why we cannot have the specific number. I think few thousands. Just like I
Okay.
can give you a ballpark figure of number, but I don't know the exact number. The second one, they usually study madrasa beside madrasa, and they like a homeschooling kind of open education. Then they go into academia. We have like right now a lot of medicine graduate. They are in academia, and they are doing very well. And they pursue their official formal education next to the madrasa curriculum. But there is another issue for this one because they get their job and they to pursue official positions. Some of them they don't complete madrasa, they don't finish the curriculum, and they went into madrasa and they don't study all the curriculum because the curriculum built one upon other, the books and in the curriculum, and we don't produce scholars like 30, 20, 40 years ago. And
Okay.
yes. Yeah, so yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you. Mahsuk. Next question is what from Shahmus Kurt, what makes a madrasa a Kurdish madrasa? Is being in Kurdistan geography enough to name them as Kurdish madrasas? What's the place of Kurdish language and literary tradition in the curriculum? Very briefly. Go ahead.
First of all, this why we say Kurdish madrasa. First of all, I think the truth it doesn't belong to a specific civilization and or any region. It is everybody builds something. Um, comes from Nizam al-Mulk specifically. Even when I went to India, in India they have a madrasa. Yes, they call madrasa, but their curriculum is similar to our curriculum, but they have their own features. When we say Kurdish madrasa, or today, I mean, I'm not talking about Ottoman Empire or Seljuk Empire time. Just when you say because of the way of teaching, reading, studying, and students, scholars, they are Kurdish, we say Kurdish madrasa. We don't have to get delve into ontological part of this in the, simple thing. Anyway, so this is one aspect. And what was the question? I'm having a little bit
So the question is the place of language and literary tradition in the curriculum.
Oh,
Very briefly.
place of encouragement. This is, I think, a Kurdish madrasa protect and preserve the language highly. Why? Our masterpiece of literature, like Diwan Malaj Ziri, like a Jagarkhun's collection, and like and in Kurmanji, in Zazaki, we have a lot of classics protect the language and the culture as well. For example, I think in our time, I think 95%, overwhelming majority of our teachers, they weren't conversant in Turkish. You know, they weren't conversant into they couldn't speak Turkish at all. That's why they were teaching in Kurdish. And through this, I think even it was difficult for them. But the Kurdish, even they produced some terms. For example, that's why honestly I translated Isagoji few years ago, still I didn't publish it in Kurdish, and I benefited from this. And even Aristotelian logic, I produced kind of nomenclature of logic in Kurdish. So and because of the language they teach in Kurdish and even Turkish today, if we have Turkish students, right?
Thank you. A quick question before I give the mic to Ibrahim Özdemir. In relation to what Shoresh Rahmi Oruç asked, in relation to what makes a Kurdish madrasa, I wonder whether Alme Dozde Elma, scholar of 12 sciences, is a Kurdish construct or a variation of Ulum al Arabiya, more or less shared by other madrasas around the world. Is that something Kurdish or not? Alme Dozde Elma.
Which one? Hamid
Alme
Abdullah.
Dozde Elma.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, Rahmi, he's a student of mine. He's a great scholar and he's professor. I think, where are you located now?
Shoresh,
Rahmi, China,
No, no, I'm
Japan.
back in the Kürtçü dükkanı, back in Istanbul.
Oh, Kırşıdikane. Very nice. That's glad to see you, Rahmi. He's
Glad to see
really
you again.
smart and yeah, he did his PhD and he's a great friend and we studied together. So
answer the
Melek
question.
I think Melek Ilm, he studied like beside he did it opposite. He's always he was in formal education and it's madrasa besides, and he spent a lot of time. He's a great man and spent a lot of effort on it. But Rahmi, I think those ilm, those ilm is became a term, but it one meant kind of between linguistic and rational sciences. But there's no those there right now. There's no 12 sciences. They don't study, but still we use it. Yes.
But is
So
it a Kurdish usage or is it, do you come
yes,
across
it's
that in other?
Kurdish use it.
It's Kurdish.
Meredoza ilm, they say. Meredoza ilm, and they study 12
No,
sciences.
no, no. The question is, do other people have such a phrase? Do
No,
Indians have such a phrase or Turks have such a okay.
no, I haven't seen it.
All right.
I haven't seen maybe the meaning exists, but as a term, I haven't heard.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor İbrahim Özdemir.
Thank you. I just have to attend another meeting at 1 p.m. But my question already answered, you know. You asked, and also Mahsuk said, I went to India. I just, I wrote down what is the difference between Kurdish madrasa and the madrasa in Syria and North Africa. As you also said, many people, they are going to, in the footstep of Hamza Yusuf, going to Mauritania. And you
Right.
said he was also appreciating the Kurdish madrasa. And I was also asked about Daubandi madrasa in India. You also answered that. So my question is that there is a nostalgia. Now, just a few weeks ago, I met a guy. You are planning to go to Yemen. So he
Right.
said, I will go somewhere. I will just study Arabic and Islamic sciences and come back. But we know Said Nursi, as you mentioned many times, even in early of 20th century, he visited Sultan Abdul Hamid,
Right.
when many people still they just see him as the solution for everything. He says, there must be a reform in madrasa system in Kurdistan, in Ottoman Empire. In fact, if you go like this, when the rise of positivism and materialism and sciences and then classical sciences, then I just wonder what do you think about his also plan of reform. You have to reform madrasa system. Even nowadays, I couldn't, discuss this with some people because they just believe the madrasa system is solution for everything. Thank you.
This is kind of I cannot. Yes, good point, but I cannot agree with them. Of course, madrasa cannot be a solution even in market. Sometimes it very, it doesn't mean every solution has their own way. I don't think we shouldn't exaggerate to make it kind of solution for every aspect of the society and every issues. But this is very good foundation even today. Um, because of AI and people, I think they are. I think they are gonna come back to liberal art education. And but Zaman Said Nursi, he was visionary scholar. He was really exceptional personality in the history of in the Islamic history, not only in our region, and that's why built Zawiya at Zahra Institute. By the way, Zahra Institute, he tried, the project he gave to the Sultan Abdul Hamid to offer to him, but he wasn't accepted. I think even today, if they can do this as he was imagining, I think it will be the solution, at least for ethical and thinking part of thinking aspect of the I mean the issues that we have, like they say, civilization crisis, so to speak. In that aspect, it will be, but because he was combining between the positive sciences, so they say, and the other Islamic studies and multi-language, multilingual education he was offering, which is today, if you have those things, you are gonna be concerned, well versed in the education. So, and he says eski hal was eski hal muhal, or is محلال. So
ينهال يا اسم هلال.
anyhow, if you have either you have to renew it or you are gonna destroy it. Kind of in academic they say publish or perish.
All right.
Thank you. I have to leave. Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Professor
I have
Özdemir.
another
He's
meeting.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Vice President
Dr.
at
Ibrahim.
American Islamic College, just for those who don't know him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question is from Zahra Ayman. We have a couple of questions, so we'll try to go fast in the interest of time. When did madrasas show their real development? Zahra Ayman is asking how much interest did they receive relative to the population? Was there any short-term education? That's a interesting question. Was there it's accepted that the Kurds made a significant contribution to Islam through madrasas. Is this exactly what you are saying? Also, what exactly was the place of Kurdish in madrasas? Could women also receive education? special textbooks? That's the question.
I mean, for women, this is one of the things I was trying to build. When I built, like a kind of madrasa in Diyarbakir in 2005. I tried to establish madrasa for women, but at that time wasn't possible for me. But today we have for women, even led by some, specific, groups, and there are other like different type groups, some tariqas, some other political, or some other in different aspect of groups they be established. But for education curriculum, it depends on the madrasa itself. Some of them they continue about 8 years, and some of them they just study from each science 1 or 2 books, makes like a 3 years, 4 years. But this is not, that's not our goal. Is not considered madrasa, a Kurdish tradition. Even we have in Turkey, they say Doğu usulü, Karadeniz usulü. Karadeniz usulü is shortcuts of madrasa. Like they skip few books, and within 2 3 years they graduate. You know, so if you make it Kurdish madrasa, you have to study about 8 years, 10 years at least.
So Karadeniz folks, for them it's a little bit business. For Kurds,
Yes,
they
it
take
must
it
be
too
hard.
seriously. Okay. Next question is from Sirwan Hariri. In old days, let's say Ottoman Empire, how did students and ulama, besides using Arabic Kurdish or Persian Kurdish dictionaries, how did they learn foreign languages? Could you elaborate a bit more on that? How did the madrasa folks learn foreign languages?
Okay.
Interesting question.
Foreign language, yes. Foreign language, actually, I don't know. They were speaking Kurdish, and foreign language was Turkish. Sorry, I'm kidding. It was Arabic, um, but Arabic they were learning, yeah, without
Yeah.
exaggeration. I'm very self-confidently I can say they are number one in the world in grammar. Number one. But when you say language, foreign language, speaking, listening, reading, writing, they teach two things: reading very well, writing as well in classic way, not like in contemporary academic style, but they write but as a speaking, unfortunately they cannot speak. Even when I went to India, Deoband, and they were like a big scholars, and weren't conversant in Arabic. I had difficult time with them to communicate. So
Okay.
it is not like like a language as a skill. They don't teach, and they learn Arabic as for reading and writing to some extent, and speaking based on their own ability, capability. And when I graduate from madrasa, I was speaking Arabic, but it doesn't go for everyone. Just based on your own efforts, they don't teach.
Thank you. Tatsuya Abe asks, when was the madrasa curriculum formed? Like it took shape when? And is there a difference between Northern Kurdistan and Southern Kurdistan in terms of curriculum, madrasa curriculum?
Oh, yes, good question. I think and in when Ghazali's Nizamul Mulk, at that time, against, there was a political, I don't want to get into that one, against political, some as sects at the time, they built the Nizami system. Even they say Nizami Madrasa because it was built in the time, at that time. And yes, we can start from there up until now. And the difference between, yes, geography, for example, like I said, in eastern Turkey, today in Kurdistan region in Turkey, they focus on linguistic and rational side, means logic, dialects, and disputation. But for example, in border of Kurdistan, Iraq, or even Rojhelat in Iran. Specifically, they focus on more philosophy and more, rational sciences than in Turkey. But in Syria, like a Rojava part, they had madrasa at the time. So they were weaker than like a Diyarbakir or Siirt and other places, madrasa. But now and in Iran, they say hawza instead of using the word madrasa. Like I said, Hussein Nasr not grad, he studied with in the one of the houses. Still, they teach peripatetic and illuminationist philosophy, and and still it exists and founded by government. But because we are poor people, we don't have any funding, we can survive. How? Yeah, that's why we try to protect what we have, the remnant of Ottoman Empire, actually. Yes.
So Kurdish madrasa is obviously lacking in terms of certain forms of support. And okay.
Yes.
Our next question is from Hanifi Barish.
Oh,
Thank you
Hanifi is
much.
my friend,
Okay,
my childhood friend.
excellent.
Yes.
Well, let me read the question, then you remember your
Great.
memories with him. Thank you, Mahsuk Sayda. I wonder if colonial, post-colonial, decolonial studies have a place in madrasa studies today in relation to Arab, Turkish, or Persian colonialisms in Kurdistan.
Oh, this. Could you remind me, just expound the question? I don't know what does it mean actually, Hanifi. Yeah, it's a difficult question you ask me, and really, I'm happy you are here. When we were like 12 years old, we were together. Yes. So could you please expound your? I didn't understand, catch the uh,
Okay,
point. If you
Hanifi, go
can
ahead.
answer, we can discuss together. If you explain, go ahead.
Oh yes, hello Mahsuk. I'm very happy to see you. And after so many years, we
30.
were studying in Diyarbakir together. Yes, like a lifetime ago. So I wonder, of course, in India, especially, when I saw that you studied in India as well, the post-colonial studies are very famous. I don't know if it entered into madrasas in India as well, actually.
No,
So
I
I
did
was
like about
wondering.
2 months actually. I didn't, after I graduated from Madrasa, I was a kind of teacher. Then I go out there and I studied with them and lived through their long curriculum. And after, like you said, British invasion, when India was colonized, there was a difference between the curriculum. Yes, there is a Qasim Nanotawi is the leading of was against the British at the time, and they were there is a lot of changing in society and specifically in the madrasa curriculum over there and education system. Please continue what you said. I'm just for the interruption, just to.
Yes, exactly. Just where you left. So these cultural, political changes will be reflected in the curriculum in madrasa. So I presume it will happen in India, and I wonder if it happens in Kurdistan as well, or are we still just not there yet? Especially in terms of, even if it is not formal curriculum, if people started talking about, there's very harsh nationalisms that are imposed from above and like internal domestic colonialism, this kind of discussion. I wonder if it is if you observe that they are really starting to get into the madrasa.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, good question. I think it is the opposite way. Sometimes colonialism helps to wake up. In madrasa, for example, actually, let me give you concrete example from myself. I was writing in Latin, because we write in madrasa in Latin and Arabic alphabet, But in Latin, nobody would. And I was writing this, and some teacher, they were teaching their students, even not as a part of curriculum, as a special course, they were teaching them grammar. You know, even in my association in Diyarbakir, I launched in 2008, and may God have mercy upon him. Kadri Yildirim used to teach in our madrasa in like some grammar, you know. So I mean, this even domestic colonization, etc. I think helps, and Dr. Mujahid knows much better. It is his field, but I can complete the rest if he. You go ahead. You can answer.
I'm just managing the questions here.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, but
But it's a
so this is exactly the correct answer is Dr. Mujahidi. I mean, in
no,
this.
no. But if you are asking my opinion, I think it's a valid question. It's a, the repression of Kurdish literature language has ramifications, and Kurdish studies, Kurdish intellectual tradition has to confront the question that other traditions have confronted. There is no doubt about it.
No.
But I will just add that, Kurds should not totally succumb to a victimhood mentality that has its own corrosive effects as bad as colonialism. So that would be my 2 cents. Next question is from Khayal Kartal. How inclusive are Kurdish madrasas in terms of gender and religious or cultural diversity among Kurds? So inclusivity, gender, and yes, inclusivity.
I mean, there is not mixed. Actually, is even we in madrasa they have liberal arts as a universal skills and arts grammar for everyone. Even like a Chomsky's opinion is makes more if you accept it more universal, regardless of the language and even thought. So no, there is no mixed education like between men or female and male, and there only used to be for men, and because this is economical and political and the religious aspect of this. But today we have only madrasa special to women, but no, there is no that. And because it's boarding school, actually it's not like a daily going, it's boarding school. That's why they don't have, like other schools, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
May I clarify my question and
Please go
taking
ahead.
this opportunity, I'd like to thank Zahra Institute and Professor Biligi and you. This is very informative. As woman, minority on the second degree, I guess, because I'm from Bakuri, Kurdistan, and I'm Alawi. So I don't know much about madrasas. When we say or claim that Kurdish intellectuals' education relies or based on madrasas, I would like to know how inclusive that claim is for Alawis, for Habramis, for Yazidis, right? Are they historically open, for instance, for Yazidis or Alawis? Or is there any plan if not so?
Practically we don't have this one to my knowledge, but definitely in the Islamic history we have this one. Even the translator of Islamic heritage, mostly they were Christians in Abbasid period. Like Hunayn bin Ishaq, for example. But it is not inclusive in terms of like a gender and other stuff. It is, and because it is a religious institution, and even there weren't participants, there weren't students, nobody were interested as well in those things. But the politics, the thinkers, a lot of they graduated from like Mullah Mustafa Barzani. He's literally madrasa. Has no education except madrasa's education. And another Sheikh Abdul Salam Barzanji, and he was completely madrasa graduate. But in terms of like, how much, I hope we have, this is a good idea actually, to have madrasa, or at least the curriculum of madrasa encompassing all gender and religious or other backgrounds. I like the idea, but practically, because we cannot treat and think madrasa as kind of official institutions founded by governments. We don't have this one. They will, small thing. Even it wasn't proper for practically for any other backgrounds. I mean, gender or religious. I don't know. Today, maybe we can build like a schools and to put medicine curriculum encompassing, but political, economical, practical, even in terms of other aspects, was not proper to be inclusive. I don't know if I answered your question. I know it is very deep, but that's why I think
Yep. Yep,
Thank you.
you answered my question. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. So the next question is by Murad Samsur. The Kurds maintained their own madrasas and educational system for centuries. During the Ottomans, the existence of Kurdish madrasa is often seen as a factor that kept them somewhat distant from issues of national identity and representation. With the Republic, the closure of these madrasas, a stronger sense of Kurdish nationalism began to emerge. How can it be explained that the people who sustained their own education institutions for such a long time were unable to standardize their language? Basically, with the Republic and the closure of madrasas, Kurds are more conscious of their national identity. So maybe it's good that that happened. And how come madrasas failed to standardize Kurdish language? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, how Kurdish message standardized the language?
Yeah. They didn't standardize. I mean, yeah. So that's the question.
Yeah, madrasa didn't actually standardize. Even today we don't have we didn't standardize even through other, even with this digital world, a lot of opportunities still in. But madrasa at least kept what they have in their own region. They wrote in Kurdish. They wrote a lot of like poems and exegesis, and even creeds, and a lot of books in Kurdish. Today we have like 1,000 of books, but it wasn't standardized through madrasa, honestly.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, no people standardize their language up
No.
until modern moment. So one of the grave mistakes of nationalistic thinking is to project into the past concerns of contemporary society. And
Right.
so to expect standardization for madrasas doesn't make sense, in my opinion. So these are, retrospectively projected issues. Madrasas were in no position. The question of standardization is bound by institutions like state, modern education,
Right.
print culture, and so on. Keep in mind that most of the production in Kurdish madrasas were, by scribes, handwritten, and so on. So, it really doesn't make sense if you are asking my opinion. I think the same goes with the inclusion question as well in terms of diversity and so on. But forward-looking, that's a fair question. And so when we think of what should a Kurdish madrasa look like in terms of inclusivity and so on, then these questions become more relevant. But as a interrogation of the past, there are limitations. So with that, I would like to conclude
Okay.
our session. Thank you very much, Mamuste.
You're welcome. I appreciate really, and I've seen a lot of great faces, and really I like it. And thank you very much for this opportunity, and good to see you, Rahmi. I mean, if I miss anyone that I know is here, and Hanifi, especially over 35 years, literally, I think it may be more. I appreciate. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next event is going to be Tracing the Legacy of Kurdish Dynasties, Art, Architecture, and Patronage. This is going to be a great lecture like this one. Speaker is Professor Birgül Açıkyıldız from Harran University. She's a great scholar. So that's going to be December 3rd. Okay. December 3rd. Thank you all, and see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.